My name is Alicia, and at 35 years old, I finally earned my master's degree after 5 relentless years of night classes, working full-time, and raising 2 children. It wasn't just a piece of paper to me, it was proof that all the sacrifices, the late nights, the tears, and the moments of guilt had led somewhere. I should have felt nothing but pride standing on that stage, draped in a cap and gown, clutching the diploma I had fought for with every ounce of my strength. But when I looked out into the crowd, my heart sank. 5 empty seats stared back at me. Reserved seats, with our family name written neatly on the little cards, seats that were meant for my husband, my children, and my parents, who had all promised they would be there, seats that remained cold and untouched while the families of other graduates clapped, cheered, and waved proudly from the stands. I forced a smile as I shook hands with the dean, but inside, I felt hollow. Around me, other graduates were surrounded by loved ones, flowers in hand, cameras flashing, children squealing as they hugged their parents in oversized gowns. I stood alone, diploma pressed against my chest, trying not to let the lump in my throat spill into tears. This achievement meant everything to me, but apparently, it meant nothing to them. The gut punch didn't end there. After the ceremony, as I walked out into the crisp evening air, still hoping maybe someone had been stuck in traffic and would surprise me outside, my phone buzzed with a notification. It wasn't a congratulations or a picture from my kids, it was a single, urgent message from my husband. In that moment, any lingering hope that they cared at all about my success crumbled. If you've ever felt betrayed by the very people who should have been your biggest supporters, you know the ache I carried that night. Family disappointment cuts deeper than any insult, deeper than any rejection from strangers, because it comes from the ones you thought you could lean on. That's why I'm sharing this story here. Let me know where you're watching from, and if you've been there too, hit the like button and subscribe, because no one should have to go through that feeling alone. For 12 years, I had been married to Nathan. On paper, our life looked steady, even enviable. Nathan was 37, a software developer at a well-known tech company in Seattle, with a stable salary and good benefits. Together, we had built what looked like the picture-perfect suburban family, a 4-bedroom home in a quiet neighborhood, 2 kids, our teenage son Ethan and our preteen daughter Sophia, and a golden retriever named Max, who thought he ruled the house. But beneath that picture, cracks had been spreading for years. Ethan, at 14, was in that stage where parents were automatically embarrassing. He would roll his eyes if I asked about school, and his answers to most questions were one-word grunts. Sophia, at 11, was growing into herself, spending more and more time with friends, experimenting with makeup and hairstyles, already dreaming about middle school dances. They both had their lives, and Nathan had his. I worked at Franklin Financial Services, a mid-sized investment firm where I'd been for nearly 9 years. My job as a financial analyst was demanding, 50-plus hours a week, sometimes more. I had a knack for numbers and patience for clients, but no matter how hard I worked, promotions always seemed to go to someone else. Usually a man, usually less experienced. "You're good, Alicia," my boss would say during performance reviews, smiling in that condescending way. "But a bachelor's degree in finance only gets you so far. Everyone has that now. If you want senior management, you'll need a master's." I nodded politely, but inside, it burned. I had been passed over 3 times, always told the same thing. Finally, I made a decision. I was going to get that master's, no matter what. They gave him something. Nathan replied over the phone, his tone steady but strained. "He's shaken up. He keeps asking for you." That last part hit me like a fist. My heart lurched at the thought of my son needing me, but underneath that maternal surge of urgency was another, more bitter voice whispering, "Now I'm needed. Now my presence matters." But where was that need a few hours ago, when I stood alone on the biggest day of my life? I shoved the thought down and rushed to the parking lot, my gown swishing clumsily around my legs. By the time I climbed into the car, I was trembling, not only from fear for Ethan, but from the weight of my own raw emotions, all colliding at once. I tossed my cap carelessly into the back seat. My diploma case sat unopened on the dashboard, its embossed seal catching the evening light like a mocking reminder. The drive to Memorial Hospital took 15 minutes, but it felt endless. My knuckles were white around the steering wheel, my chest tight with each red light. A reel of frantic thoughts played over and over. What if it's worse than Nathan said? What if Ethan needs surgery? What if I should have been there sooner? And then the darker reel, the one I couldn't silence. Would they have ever shown up for me today if this accident hadn't happened? Or would they all still be laughing at the barbecue while my seat sat empty? By the time I pulled into the emergency lot, my pulse was thundering in my ears. I hurried inside, still in my navy blue dress, my hair falling out of its pins, my makeup streaked from the frantic drive. The emergency room was its usual blur of Saturday chaos, crying children, muttered arguments, the antiseptic tang of disinfectant hanging heavy in the air. "Ethan Miller," I told the receptionist, breathless. "Bay 7. she answered without looking up. I pushed through the maze of curtains, and when I drew back the one labeled 7, I froze. There he was, my son, lying small and pale on the bed, his right arm encased in a temporary splint. His face was blotchy from tears, but calmer now, his chest rising and falling in steady breaths. Relief flooded me so powerfully I had to grip the curtain for balance. But then I saw who else was in the room. Nathan stood by the bedside, hand on Ethan's shoulder. Sophia hovered near the foot of the bed, her big eyes wide with worry, and beside them, impossibly, were my parents. My brother Derek leaned against the wall, a doctor in a white coat, Ramirez, his badge red, was showing them x-rays. They all turned as I entered. A dozen emotions flickered across their faces: relief, guilt, and something else I couldn't stomach, pity. "Mom," Ethan said, his voice small and achingly young despite his teenage bravado. "You came." That undid me. I rushed to his side, my hand smoothing his hair back from his damp forehead. "Of course I came, sweetheart, I'm right here. How are you feeling? Tell me what happened." "Dr. Ramirez stepped forward. "Your son has a simple fracture of the radius, painful, but very straightforward. We'll get a cast on, and he should heal fully within 6 weeks." Relief poured over me. A broken arm. Yes, but nothing permanent, nothing life-threatening. I exhaled, pressing a kiss to Ethan's temple. "He was very brave," my mother added quickly, as though she were the one who needed reassurance. She patted his leg. "Barely cried after the initial shock." I gave her a tight smile, but it felt brittle, hollow. The sight of her standing here, her hand on my son, when she couldn't spare an afternoon to watch me cross a stage, made something twist deep in my chest. Derek stepped forward, his grin apologetic. "Thank God you got here, sis. The little man's been asking for you nonstop." Something in his easy tone, like this was all just a normal family gathering instead of the culmination of years of neglect, snapped something inside me. "Thank God I got here," I repeated, my voice low, sharp, as opposed to where I was before, graduating alone, while my entire family enjoyed a barbecue. The words dropped like stones in the small space, the air thickened with silence. Nathan's eyes flicked toward me in warning, a silent plea: "Not here, not now." But it was too late. 5 years of exhaustion, swallowed disappointment, and invisible sacrifice boiled to the surface. My voice trembled, but I didn't stop. I just spent the most important day of my professional life completely alone. No husband, no children, no parents, not even one text message saying congratulations. My throat tightened, but I forced the words out, because a barbecue and a pool party mattered more than 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears. "Alicia," my father began, his voice dipped in that placating tone I had grown up with, the one meant to smooth over conflict before it got messy. "No, Dad." My eyes burned. "When would be a better time? When I go back to being invisible again? When I go back to being the responsible one who never complains? The one you all take for granted because she'll always pick up the slack?" My mother blinked, startled. "Honey, it's just a ceremony. We didn't realize it meant this much." "Just a ceremony?" I echoed, a hollow laugh escaping me. "Just like it's just a degree, just an accomplishment, just my life." Derek shifted uncomfortably, rubbing the back of his neck. "Look, what matters now is Ethan's okay. This was an emergency. Al, don't lose perspective." "Perspective?" My voice cracked on the word. "And if there hadn't been an emergency, would you have cared then? Would any of you have thought about me today at all?" The silence that followed was suffocating. No one spoke, no one denied it. And their silence was my answer. The local university offered evening classes for working professionals. It would take 5 years of grinding part-time study, but I signed up, convinced it was the only way forward. I don't think I realized how much it would cost me, not in money, but in time, in energy, in pieces of myself. My days began at 5:30 a.m. I would drag myself out of bed, make breakfast for the family, pack the kids' lunches, and make sure their homework was ready before rushing out the door. After 8 or 9 hours at the office, I'd head straight to class 3 nights a week, sitting under fluorescent lights until 9 p.m. My brain would buzz with formulas, case studies, and presentations while my body begged for rest. When I finally stumbled home, I'd find dirty dishes in the sink, half-finished homework on the table, and a husband watching TV with his feet up. "Long day?" Nathan would ask casually, barely glancing up. He didn't say it to be cruel, at least. I don't think he did, but his tone always made me feel like my exhaustion was an inconvenience to him. Weekends weren't better. While Nathan took the kids to soccer games, birthday parties, or the park, I locked myself in the home office to finish assignments. I missed dance recitals, science fairs, and movie nights, not because I didn't want to be there, but because I couldn't afford to lose focus. "Mom is always studying," Ethan once complained when he thought I couldn't hear. "She never has time for us." His words cut deep, but I swallowed the pain. I told myself it was temporary. that one day it would all pay off. Once I had that degree, I could get the promotion, the raise, the stability, then maybe, just maybe, I could give them more. Maybe we could finally take that family vacation to Disney World the kids begged for every year. Maybe then they'd understand why I had worked so hard. But standing there at graduation, staring at those empty seats, I wondered if they ever would. "I'll be right there," I said, breaking into a half-run despite the pinch of my heels. My voice cracked, a mixture of fear and adrenaline pushing me forward. "Is he in a lot of pain? How bad is it?"